Welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today because we're going to unpack a truly eye-opening framework about why modern life so often feels, well, hollow, and more importantly, how ancient practices might actually be the key to fixing it. Have you ever felt like you have everything you need, and yet something essential is just missing? Well, you are definitely not alone, and today we're going to map out exactly why that is.
Think about it. Do you feel surrounded by endless choices, yet somehow totally disconnected from reality? Most of us feel like life has little meaning, but we push this vague feeling of burnout and alienation down. We don't really deal with these feelings, right? We just try to ignore them, ending up only being vaguely aware of them as we go about our busy days. But it's actually a structural condition known as the meaning crisis. It's not just you having a rough week. It's a widespread, documented phenomenon where people feel completely unmoored and unanchored in their own lives, despite living in an age of unprecedented abundance.
So here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the modern meaning crisis, then look at the problem with post-truth. After that, we'll dive into the 4 ways of knowing, tools for the mind, the mechanics of insight, and we'll wrap up with religion as lived practice.
All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, the modern meaning crisis and the symptoms of a lost anchor.
Now, these aren't just isolated personal issues. They are interconnected symptoms of a culture that has lost its orientation to what's real and good. The meaning crisis is incredibly real today. Loneliness, the abuse of drugs and alcohol, suicides, what sociologists grimly call deaths of despair, and widespread mental health problems are all dramatically on the rise. We are experiencing a profound collective loss of belonging.
The thing is, human beings don't just run on facts, pleasure, and basic survival alone. We desperately need significance. We need a larger cosmic framework to truly thrive. When we don't have an overarching narrative that gives our lives a sense of direction and value, we literally start to fragment.
Which brings us to Section 2, the problem with post-truth. This is what happens when reality becomes optional.
Our struggle to find meaning is happening right as our relationship with truth is collapsing. And don't worry, bullshit is actually an academic term here. It was borrowed from philosopher Harry Frankfurt by cognitive scientist John Vervaeke. It perfectly describes how our culture so often prioritizes emotional impact over objective reality. We are practically swimming in speech that simply does not care what is actually true.
And there's a crucial difference between the two. Think about it. A liar still respects the truth enough to want to conceal it. But the bullshitter? They have absolutely zero relationship with reality. They weaken our very habit of caring about the truth at all, which leaves us completely unanchored.
When we lose our grip on reality and slide into this post-truth culture, we become incredibly vulnerable to manipulation, cheap ideological slogans, and a deepening sense of meaninglessness. Because, logically, if we don't know what's real, we can't possibly know what's worth caring about or how to live a good life.
Let's move on to Section 3, the 4 ways of knowing. It turns out we need more than just facts.
We often think ignorance is our primary problem, but it goes way deeper than that. Modern culture is completely obsessed with propositional knowing, just collecting facts, knowing that something is true. But we totally neglect procedural knowing, like how to actually ride a bike, or participatory knowing, like the deep, transformative connection of sharing your life with a friend. You can literally have all the propositional facts in the world and still be totally alienated from reality. To live a truly meaningful life, we absolutely have to engage this full spectrum of knowing.
Section 4, tools for the mind. Let's look at rewiring human intelligence.
You see, human intelligence isn't just raw biological brain power sitting isolated inside your skull. It is heavily shaped by psychotechnologies. Things like reading, writing, and even rituals actually organize our attention and give us shared meanings. They literally rewire and reshape how our minds work.
To understand how this works, we can look at the evolutionary concept of exaptation. For example, our tongue evolved originally for handling food and detecting poison, but later on it was exapted, or repurposed, to become an incredibly powerful psychotechnology for complex speech, which is actually exactly what I'm using to talk to you right now.
Around 40,000 years ago, early humans literally upgraded their cognitive software. By developing art, music, and complex long-range weapons, they trained their minds to project into the future and share intelligence across groups. This proves that meaning has always been a social participatory exercise. It is not just a solo endeavor.
Moving to Section 5, the mechanics of insight and breaking the frame.
So imagine trying to solve this famous puzzle.
Can you connect these 9 dots with 4 straight lines without lifting your pencil? This perfectly demonstrates that when we're stuck in life, the problem usually isn't a lack of information. The real problem is how we are unconsciously framing the situation. To solve this puzzle, you literally have to draw lines outside the imaginary box the dots create. We project boundaries that aren't actually there.
This puzzle proves why wisdom cannot be reduced to simple factual statements alone. It requires a radical reframing of our perspective. It requires procedural and perspectival knowing how to shift your attention to see what you were completely blind to just moments before.
And one of the very best ways to practice this kind of insight is through flow. By entering a state of flow, or utilizing implicit learning where we pick up on the deep patterns of the world without realizing it, we can engage more deeply with reality. This is how we overcome that terrible alienation and self-conscious chatter of the meaning crisis.
Finally, Section 6, Religion as Lived Practice, Awakening Through Tradition.
The solution to today's meaning crisis is actually right in front of us. We can look at world religions, traditions like Islam, Buddhism, Taoism, Hinduism, and Judaism, not merely as historical artifacts or rigid belief systems, but as highly evolved toolkits meant to help unmoored people reconnect with reality in profound ways. Now, our modern physicalist worldview often won't let us accept things like divine reality, or the Tao, or concepts beyond physical reality like reincarnation. Because of our materialism, we tend to think we can actually prove that spiritual reality does not exist, but we're completely wrong about that. The truth is, no human being can definitively prove something beyond the physical doesn't exist, just as we can't mathematically prove that it does. Our materialist framing is just another invisible boundary we've projected that stops us from accessing these deeper truths.
A world religion functions as a lived path, an ecology of practice. These traditions give us back the procedural, perspectival, and participatory knowing that we've totally lost in our modern fact-obsessed world. They offer real communities to cure our loneliness and rigorous disciplines to re-anchor us when we feel adrift.
We can also look at ancient philosophies embedded in these traditions. Whether it's the Stoic insight or Buddhist meditation, these ecologies of practice train us to stop fusing our painful, immediate interpretations with reality itself. By separating the event from the story we tell ourselves about the event, we open the door to genuine transformation. Just think about the last time you felt intense anxiety. Separating the raw facts of the situation from the catastrophic story you built around them opens the door to genuine peace.
You know, anyone can entertain the possibility that a world religion can resolve the meaning crisis. You don't have to sign up and accept a world religion right away. You can just theoretically think about it. Try to meditate. Attempt to just open your mind to a wider reality. Even if you don't fully believe in a tradition yet, you can still make serious headway into beginning the quest and exploring these rich ecologies of practice. The meaning crisis is real, but so are the tools to fight it. So the real question I want to leave you with today is, where will your exploration begin?